Hi, in this video, I will show how to download and install fresh Windows 10, which means that any existing data on the disk will be deleted. Before proceed, you should check if your computer meets the system requirements for Windows 10. You can see more details at the bottom of this video description. I divide into 3 steps. First, download Windows 10 with Media Creation Tool. Second, create bootable USB flash drive from Windows 10 installation media. And third, install fresh Windows 10. Let's begin with the first step. Open web browser to the following URL. Scroll down to bottom and click Download Tool according to your current system version. In this example, I select to download the 64-bit version. Click Save File and run the file after finished downloading. On Windows 10 Setup program, you can choose to upgrade this computer or download Windows 10 installation media. I choose the second option and click Next. Then select Language, Edition, and Architecture of Windows 10 that you want to download. In this example, I select English Language and Professional Edition. For architecture, I used to download the 64-bit version, but it turned out I got the 32-bit, so I select both versions instead and click Next. After that, I choose to download as ISO image and click Next to continue. Then select where you want to save the file. I recommend to name the file as it corresponds to the information you select earlier and click Save. In this example, it took about an hour to download Windows 10 and create the ISO image. When finished, you get the ISO image, and the file size is about 5.8 GB. Next, the second step. After you have the ISO image file, you can choose to burn on a DVD or create USB bootable. In this example, I select the latter option because it is more convenient. I will use Rufus to create bootable USB flash drive. On Rufus, select your USB flash drive. If you want to boot as UEFI, you can select from this option and select ISO image from the previous step. In this example, it took about 26 minutes to copy files to USB flash drive. When the program finishes, you have USB flash drive which can be used to install Windows 10. And finally, the third step. First, insert the DVD or USB on a computer that you want to install Windows 10 and boot your computer up. If it doesn't boot into the DVD or USB, you may have to check boot order in BIOS and configure to boot from it first. However, your computer may have a boot menu option, which you can use to override boot order in BIOS. As in this example, I can press F11 on my MSI mainboard, and I can choose to boot from my USB flash drive. You will boot into the installation media. Select Architecture. Next, select Language, Currency Format, and Input Method, and click Next. On this page, click Install Now. Then, you have to enter license key of Windows 10 and click Next. Check I accept the license terms and click Next. After that, click Custom. Now you have to select which disk to install Windows 10. If you have only one disk and there is no data on the disk, you can leave it as default selection and click Next. Or in this example, I have two hard disks. The first disk has two partitions and contains my existing Windows system, and the second one is my data disk. I want to install Windows 10 on the first disk, so I will delete any existing partitions on the disk. Select Partition and click Delete. And do it on the other partition as well. If you are uncertain which disk to select, you can try to unplug the data disk. Then select the disk and click Next. After that, the setup will copy installation files to the disk, which took about 10 minutes. Then it will restart your system and begin the installation. This step took about 8 minutes. Next, I will use default settings by click Use Express Settings. And Windows will ask you to create user account. Type username, password, confirm password in this box. The last box is your password reminder. And click Next to continue. And you see Windows 10 Desktop, which means that you have finished the installation process. In this example, it took roughly 2 hours to download and install fresh Windows 10 on my system. After this, you may have to update Windows and activate your Windows license, configure Windows settings, install driver and programs, and back up your system. So that's it for this video. If you have any question or suggestion, please post below. If you like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.